our recording and get us shared out on Facebook.
Hello again, Stephanie.
Hello there, Miss Barbara. Hey, ladies, how are you?
I'm suddenly hungry for a corny dog.
Oh my Lord, I've been thinking about it all day long. So this is coming at the right time, dinner time. At the right time, dinner time. At the right time, dinner time. Uh-oh.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started, but before I turn it over to Tracy, I just wanted to let everybody know. So Amber's going to do her presentation. She's going to take some Q&A. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut the virtual feed and the live stream on Facebook feed. And we're going to head out to the trailer. And then we're going to log back into Facebook Live. And we're also going to have somebody recording the actual tour of the truck, because we're not sure, we didn't have really great bandwidth yesterday afternoon and it got really laggy. So we're going to record it and we'll upload it to YouTube as well, for those of you that are virtual, so that you can go through the food truck tour and hear any kind of questions and answers and stuff that are out there. So please be patient with us as we kind of begin to carve a new path for this. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you here. We're so excited for you guys in here, too. This is our first back on campus. And so we're really thrilled to have the live and the virtual portion of this. My name is Tracy Irby, and I'm the director of the Center for Women Entrepreneurs. We have several people with us tonight that I'd like to introduce. Donalisa Stinyard, you just heard from. We have our new statewide program manager who is here this evening. This is Kimberly Nielsen. And online we have our new small business advisor, Stephanie Robinson.
Hello, everyone.
So again, welcome to everyone that is here. If you're not familiar with the Center for Women Entrepreneurs, we are part of the larger Jane Nelson Institute for Women's Leadership at TWU. And we are dedicated to preparing more women to take on successful roles in business and public service. There are 3 specialized centers: the Center for Student Leadership, the Center for Women Entrepreneurs, and the Center for Women in Politics and Public Policy. The goal is to ensure women have the education to establish careers as successful C-suite executives, the skills for building entrepreneurial businesses, and the framework needed to run for public office. Our center was funded by the state legislature just to help promote women entrepreneurs anywhere in the state of Texas. And we do that through small business advising, funding, networking, and training events like this one tonight. And we welcome all of you. We have got such an exciting program. We're so happy to have Amber back tonight. I know many of you already know who she is, but Amber Fletcher is the head of marketing for the multi-million-dollar Texas staple Fletcher's Original State Fair Corny Dogs, the granddaughter of Dallas's famous corn dog inventor and founder, Neil Fletcher. From a young age, Amber could be found behind the counter at the State Fair of Texas, getting to know customers, as well as keenly observing her father as he built the empire. As a 3rd-generation business operator, Amber assumes a dual focus, preserving her family's deep legacy in the state, while also expanding Fletcher's reach nationally through events, operations, a strong digital footprint, and most importantly, top-notch quality control. Amber, we're so glad you're here.
I love the top-notch quality control, which is just really a way to say I eat a lot of corny dogs. Got to make sure that they're perfect.
So Barbara is in online as well. So if you have any questions, you can give them to her and then we'll get them at the end. Okay.
Okay. So thank you so much for being here. She just did the bio, so you know a little bit about me. And this is the guide to starting a mobile food business. I wanted to do this just because it was such an amazing experience for my family and I to go from state fair to start doing food trucks. So I just wanted to share some of the information that I've learned the last couple of years that have really helped increase our experience with food trucks. Before, I did want to give just a very small history on Fletcher's original State Fair corny dogs. We did start our company in 1942 at the State Fair of Texas. It was originally invented by my grandfather and his brother, Carl. It was Neil and Carl. So at the far left photo, I believe is probably from the early 60s. The photo in the middle on the top is my father and my grandfather. My grandfather ran the company from 42 to about 88. After his passing, the company was then ran by my father and my uncle, which is this photo on the far right. That is Skip Fletcher and his brother Bill Fletcher. They ran the company from about 1988 to about 2017 when my father passed in 2017, leaving his portion of the company to my brother and I, which you can see on the bottom middle photo. That is my brother, my mother, and myself at our 75th anniversary. And then the last photo is just showing multiple family members that are still active and involved in the family business. It's been a family business for 80 years. We're on 3 generations. And we've had, essentially one product that whole time. So I just wanted to give a brief history on the 80 years of being at the state fair. We did franchises. We even did some food trailers, 20, 30 years ago before they were a thing like they are today. So that was just a brief history of Fletcher's original corny dogs. And then just a brief history on Fletcher's and food trailers and how we got to be where we are today. The photos on the left, you'll see, and I don't really remember these when I was young, but these are from the 80s when we had franchises, and then we would take the trucks or the trailers to go out and do promotional events and do some other local events. Quite a different design, but still, that food trailer. So after about a 15-year gap without a trailer in 2019, Fletcher's purchased 2 food trailers for events, catering, and festivals. One of our first events that we did with a food trailer was a July 4th event. We purchased 2 trailers that year serving our famous corny dogs, funnel cakes, curly fries, and lemonade. We essentially got these to do, like I said, just some local festivals, catering for weddings, and a few events. I think we maybe did 15 events, 15 to 20 in 2019. My brother had actually been wanting food trucks for about 10 years. We just were more involved in the fair and it just wasn't really the time for it. In 2020, we were very excited for all the events that we were gonna do. We could not wait. We had so many great things planned. And then like most people know, world shut down, everything canceled. But lo and behold, Fletcher's ended up doing over 100 events in 2020 because we started feeding first responders. We went to police stations, hospitals. We started popping up in neighborhoods, pretty much anywhere that the city would let us go. We started doing, and it really was a catalyst for the company to get the word out there that Fletcher's wasn't just at the fair, that we had food trailers. And when the state fair canceled, our emails ever since then have been, getting requests from people wanting catering services and delivery services and all kinds of things. So I just wanted to give a brief history on Fletcher's and food trailers over the last couple of decades. And one thing people kept asking once COVID, has kind of settled down is, are you still going to be doing pop-ups? And the answer is yes, we will be doing pop-ups and hopefully we'll be adding more trucks. So a little bit about food truck and trailers. The market value is expected to hit 1.2 billion in 2022. That's surpassing 2021's at 1.1 billion. So you can say that there is definitely a market for food trucks. Right now, there's about 35,512 registered trucks in the US. Just 10 years ago, there was about 9,700. So it's growing at a huge rate, and it's up 10% just from 2021. 78% of operators have 4 or fewer employees, with the average being 1.2, which that really amazes me. How many people are out there with probably just them and a family member, or them and a friend, running these trucks? Fletcher's has about 15 employees that we use for the trucks, because we are doing about 3 to maybe 7 events a week. And so we just can't work our staff. So we do have staff of about 15. Startup cost basic, you're looking at $50,000. Just really depending on the type of equipment, the type of truck or trailer, the type of events that you're doing and the permits required, with the possibility of a 2 to 4 times in return. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I mean, food trucks have grown in such a popularity that restaurants such as Mi Cocina, In-N-Out, and Whataburger have also purchased food trucks and are going around to events, festivals, catering, and things like that.
Can we stop for a second, Amber? I guess the slideshow on the online is different, so.
Right, you do manual editing before it'll start.
I remember you from health studies.
I know, we graduated in the same class.
Yeah. I was like, she looks so familiar.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I'll be there.
I got to go speak to some my nieces and American Heritage girls, and so she wanted me to come speak to her troop about going to Texas Women's and getting my degree in health studies. And they're like, well, what do you do now? And I was like, well, I sell fried food. And they're like 15-year-olds, and they're like, how did you go from there to there? I'm like, well, I still use it in the health of my employees, the quality of product, just being safe and cautious with, food safety. So, it still comes, but I always tell people it's moderation.
It's all about balance.
It's all about balance.
Okay.
So, which, before the food trucks, I probably had 1 to 2 corny dogs a year. And since 2020, I've probably had about 80 a year. But most of them are bites. Okay, so we're good to go. So I just wanted to share some of these just kind of basic, food truck, food trailer statistics on just, it is a growing business. There's so many perks of having a trailer over, a restaurant with, making your own hours, getting to decide where you want to be. If you want to have a vacation, you get to really kind of create your own life with a truck or trailer versus owning a brick and mortar. And that's one thing, Fletcher's does not have a brick and mortar. We only have food trailers, and it just allows us the freedom to really do with it what we want. Before starting your own business, I think it would be great to ask yourself some questions, such as, your budget. How much are you wanting to spend? Is this coming from saved money? Are you going to look into a loan? You've got to take into potential for returns if you are getting a loan. What can you put into it now? Or for example, if it's a dream you want to have in 2 years, how much money should you start putting aside, monthly or every, quarter to start building up to have this in 2 years so that it's not straining your wallet and stress with finances? What's your commitment to the business? Is this going to be part-time, full-time, hobby? Do you just want to do kids' birthday parties? Are you looking to make some serious money by getting into festivals? What is your time commitment? For Fletcher's, it is a year-round business. It is my only job. It is all that I do. It's all the family does. We work in the office 5, 6, 7 days a week, 24/7. For us, it's our passion, and we, being entrepreneurs, we have no problem pretty much living, eating, breathing corny dogs. Is that something you want, or do you want it to be, hey, this is my side hobby. I do weddings and birthday parties, and I make a little cash for, my Christmas fund or, shopping hobbies. What is your experience at running a business? Have you ran a business before? What is your experience with working with customers, being a leader, having employees under you, how to manage employees, how to manage scheduling. So what is your experience with that? Do you need to go maybe shadow someone or work with someone else to kind of see what is it like to be in an owner leadership position? Are you going to bring in a partner? Are you going to have employees? If you're going to have employees, you need to get an employee identification number. The size of the business you want to start, which goes back into, you know, your time commitment. Is it going to be 1 or 2 employees? Do you want to work up to having multiple trucks that requires, you know, a dozen or so employees that are on call? What foods are popular in your region? You know, what do you want to cook? What do you like cooking? What are you good at? You know, is there a lack of something that you think you'd be good at? Knowing that it's going to be a more environment where it's more a specialty that, for example, there is a vegan food truck that I see. There's a huge need for vegan food, but I'm sure that it's not getting probably as many events as a taco truck or a burger truck. But for those seeking a vegan truck, they're going to go straight to you because you're there and you're local. Knowing your ideal demographic, age, cuisine, budget. Most people eating at food trucks, it says, is between 20 to 45 years old. What kind of foods do they like? What are their budgets? And what are they like? So, and I just put up a couple photos, you know, again, like looking at a food truck, do you have something in mind? Do you have family recipes? Do you have a favorite dish? What are you good at cooking at? Is it going to be desserts, tacos? You know, it's going to be barbecue. The number 1 item that are sold the most out of food trucks are hamburgers. So do you want to go with something you think is going to be a win-win because everyone loves burgers, or do you want to steer away from that because there's so many of them? And then you have to think about competition. Truck versus trailer. Fletcher's has 2 food trailers. We do not have food trucks. There are a few differences such as cost. A truck is typically a lot more expensive. You're dealing with, you know, a motor, you're dealing with different types of upgrades and repairs, miles and service on it. The size is typically a little bit larger. It is easier to maneuver. I grew up driving an RV, and so I keep wanting a food truck because it's so easy to drive if it's comparable to the RV. They won't let me drive the trailer, so I'm not allowed to do that.
There's a story there.
there is. So, but trailers are great. They're a lot more affordable. You can just go and find an empty shell trailer in so many different places. You can have one custom built. The average is going to be $25,000. There's places out of Dallas, places out of Houston that you can get custom trailers. The maintenance of equipment is something to consider. Obviously, you have to have a truck for towing, and so take that to your budget. If you don't have a truck, then you have to look at getting some type of heavy duty truck that can pull, you know, the size of a trailer. Most events, they want you to detach the truck. So you have to think about having someone to make sure that you're detaching and attaching to haul it off at the end of the event. Some other things, depending on what city you go to, there are different types of permits and regulations for truck versus trailers. Some treat them the same, some treat them differently. Some of the permits are more expensive, some they are cheaper. You really just need to go to that city and look at their website before applying to events to make sure that if you do get accepted, it is an event that you can fulfill their requirements. For example, I was telling them earlier, Fletcher's applied to the city of Richardson to do an event with our food trailer. And at the time, they did not have a regulation for food trailers. And so we were not allowed to operate in the city of Richardson simply because they didn't have a way to regulate that process. If we had a truck, we would have been able to. So really doing some research on the different cities. For this particularly, I'm going to focus on Denton County because Denton County is great to work with. They're easy to work with. Their event permits are, their health permits are pretty affordable. So I will focus on Denton County. So cost. This is a big one, can be overwhelming. Again, a good reason to save. In fact, I have to get closer so I can read everything because there's so much. So some things to look at: the purchase of the truck. Like I said, you're looking at anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, an average being 25 with food trucks or trailers, but with food trucks, it's going to be Again, anywhere from, 40, food trucks can go up to $200,000 with all the bells and whistles. And again, with that, you really got to keep track of the maintenance on the motor. So for Fletcher's, we purchased 2 empty food trailers. We got all the equipment we needed, which is just a lot of fryers. Some people may need grills. Some people may need, equipment to keep items cold. Another cost for the trailers is design for the trailer, design on the menu, design for signs outside. You really want to have a nice sign and a nice menu so that when people are walking by, they can see your items. People, it's like little kids, like you want to read a book that has pictures, people want to eat what they can see. Product inventory to take into consideration, how much money do you have to spend on product. Insurance, $2,000 to $4,000 yearly, depending on the type of operation you have, what type of insurance you're going through. Keeping in mind, you've got to get permits from the city with every event that you're doing. Fuel, propane, as we all know, past year, cost of fuel has gone up quite a bit. So even with that, so for Fletcher's, we have a 30-mile radius that we will service. Outside of 30 miles, we start charging a fuel charge. If people want us to come to, for example, someone asks us to go to Will's Point, we will go, but you've got to help cover some of that gas because that's outside of our serving territory. Again, with food product, anyone can go to places like Costco. They have got amazing food and buy in bulk. You can work with a distributor such as Benny Keith or Cisco. Other costs would be marketing. I highly recommend having someone take some professional photos. You want accurate photos that are your photos, not ones that you just went and took off of Google. You need your photos that represent your food well, that are ooey gooey, that are going to make them hungry, that are going to make them want to spend the money on your product. Especially at events, there's lots of competition. You want people to walk by and see and smell your item and be like, hold on, I have to get in line for this item. And photos are really great to do that. Some other costs are going to be attorney fees, whether it's for your employees, for your company, for yourself. Having NDAs, having non-competes, these are really important. Trademark, registration marks. If you're looking at this for a long-term goal, you really want to look into getting your trademark registered. You can look up trademark search, LegalZoom to see if it's already there, and then go maybe work with an attorney on that. So there's some legal fees we recommend. NDAs are just a really good way to keep yourself protected. Just download one online. If you have a business attorney, ask him for an NDA, tell him your purpose, really to keep people from any type of perhaps slandering online. If you have an employee who gets mad, things like that. Payroll, obviously you're paying your employees to work with you. It's amazing. The minimum wage in Texas is still $7.25. I don't know anyone that's getting paid $7.25. Concessions, it is average to pay your employees $15 to $21 an hour. And if you're using a POS system, you can get tips on that, but also, cash tips. So 15 to 21 is average plus tips. Another cost would be storage. Is it going to go in your driveway? Is it going to be at your place of business? Are you going to go to a storage facility and pay to have it parked so that it has a covering? So these are all things to take into consideration, the cost of your food truck or trailer. Food truck owners spend an average of $28,000 on permits, licenses, and ongoing legal compliance during the first year of operation. I think that really depends on your business. This is an average. I think it could be less, it could be more. Let's see, your food truck. So imagining that you have decided on a truck or trailer, you've looked at the cost. Now we're taking a closer look at the food truck, which we will then after the class go out and actually look at hands-on a food trailer or a food truck. Size, purpose, product for your truck. Is it going to be fryers, grilled, cold items? One thing that's really important, if you're going to use oil, you need to find a good company that can do oil recycling. You cannot be putting it down drains in the sink, things like that. It'll absolutely destroy it and corrode it. There's great oil recycling companies that will come to you, pick it up, recycle it, and do whatever it needs to be done with. Electricity, knowing the type of electricity that yours is really important for when you're applying to events or you're going to do catering, so that you know how to have electricity to operate. Water, you have to have water on your food trailer. Usually just, we take a hose and we just fill it up and then you dispose of it properly. Fire safety is really important. You have to have, you know, fire suppression system, having the propane, having the fires, or the grease in the grills, you know, that can cause fires in that small space. It's really important to have that suppression system. Having different types of extinguishers also kind of depends on the city. There's some you have to have, and sometimes they want you to have others, and just knowing the difference between the two. Class A puts out fires and on ordinary objects, and the Class B is more for flammable liquids like grease. Being familiar with the ventilation, keeping a window open when you're cooking if you have gas or propane, making sure you're getting your health inspections on site, health permits, and then obviously staffing, employees, cooks, windows, you know, you're wanting to find friendly service, friendly employees. You're wanting your cooks that, you really want to have cooks that are passionate about what they're doing, because you want to have a quality product that people love and that tastes good. And if someone is just doing it just to do it, I really feel you can tell that in the food. So another thing to consider with a food trailer or truck is how you're going to do payment. Is it going to be cash? Is it going to be a POS system? For the longest time, Fletcher's only accepted cash. POS systems weren't as popular, and so we did cash. You know, advantages, you have no processing fees. Advantage, you have cash immediately. Some disadvantages is you can't track sales or food inventory, and you can't process credit card payment. You know, for me, I rarely ever have cash on me these days. I always have a credit card though. Another disadvantage is if you have employees that you can't trust because they're stealing. I mean, obviously if you have cash, there's the chance that it could be stolen. Credit cards, you don't really have that. So credit cards, like for example, Fletcher's uses Square, and we love it because I have some little graphs on the side. You can see what's going through card, what's cash. You can see your tips coming in. Especially, it's good to know what kind of products you're serving the most of, so that you can get help with inventory and to know what's more popular. For example, if you're selling a lot of original Corny dogs like we do, and maybe only a few vegetarian, you may take that off the menu at some events if you're having, you know, crowding issues in your refrigerator. Or if you can only serve a few items, you kind of know which ones don't make money to kind of leave off for that event in particular. But so there's other POS systems. I mean, there's a dozen out there. Two popular ones is Square and Clover. We use Square. We like Square. It keeps up with everything for us. One issue to be aware of is if you're at an event that's really popular, like a concession, or there's just 20,000 people, you might have Wi-Fi issues. And so just knowing what to do when those Wi-Fi issues happen, which is just flipping it into airplane mode so it can keep track. This happened to Fletcher several times when we did not know that that was going to happen at events. And we're scrambling, but just being aware of how your system works in case there's an emergency such as Wi-Fi. You can put the price of the product in so you can keep track of everything. Yeah, so the benefits of having a POS system is sales patterns. You can do quick refunds, you get customer feedback, total product sold. It deposits into the bank or checking, email and text receipts. We will also get feedback through Square. You know, the lemonade didn't have enough ice in it. So then, you know, if we want to, we can refund them, or we can apologize, or we can offer them a free one next time. So it's a great way to communicate with your customers as well. Everyone who is going to have a food business has got to go through food safety courses. The one Fletcher's uses is learntoserve.com. It's a food handler certificate. You have to know about foodborne illness, food safety, sanitation, hygiene, cross-contamination, the cooling and heating, danger zones and things like that of temperature. at all times, you have to have a food service handler and a food service manager in your trailer. This is so important because if someone gets sick from your truck or your trailer and they go and they post about it, it will devastate your sales if that gets out. If someone says, I went to, Joe's barbecue and I was up all night sick, it can really create some havoc on your company. And a lot of those issues come from food that was not kept at the right temperatures, food that has spoiled, refrigerators that weren't kept at the cooling point, or food that was kept out too long. And again, you can go to learntoserve.com. I think it's like $10. It lasts 2 years. The manager's one is a little bit more expensive. And I believe it lasts 5 years. So this is something you get from the city of Denton. This is for a tent setup, but it also has to be, this is something you have to have in your food truck or trailer too. But for example, the dishwash station setup you see, that's typically going to be your sink that you have. The health inspector, these are things he's going to look at when he comes on site before an event. Do you have soap? Do you have paper towels? Do you have water? Do you have the proper sanitation? Do you have gloves? Nowadays at some events you have to have masks. Do you have proper disposal? So even though this little setup is for a tent, they're going to be looking for these things on site before the event, before they'll let you serve. And if you don't have these things and you don't pass your health inspection, then they will not let you operate that event that day. Propane and fuel safety. So like, for example, Fletcher's, again, we have oil, we have propane, we have the suppression system, but it's really important to know about filling the propane tanks properly, how to cut them off properly, making sure you do cut them off. For example, before you get on the road, you don't want to forget to turn your propane off. Leak test. We actually had one event in Waco in 2019 where our propane was leaking. Someone smelled it, and so they called the fire department. They had to come out with trucks and a golf cart, and they took our propane tank and they drove it as far away as they could, and we had to go get it fixed. But we couldn't operate the rest of that day because it would have been a danger. Regular maintenance to make sure everything with your electrical equipment is up to date and is working properly. Having your exhaust systems inspected. Propane, this is a big thing. Propane has to be 10 feet from the wall or building, public seating or other vehicles. Oftentimes when we're doing catering events, they want us to pull under an awning in a building, and we cannot do that. You've got to let them know. So anytime I get scheduled an event, I let them know we need 9 parking spaces. I need to be 10 feet from the building, and I cannot be under an awning. You don't want to get in trouble, or if God forbid something actually does happen and you hurt someone. For example, if you have an explosion and it hurts someone, you could possibly get sued. You want to avoid that. Windows open when cooking. This is good with the propane gas. I mostly do it also because the fryer and the smoke and the grease, it just kind of will get in your eyes, and I can't wear mascara sometimes when I'm working. You have to be approved by the local fire department before events. Sometimes, like for the city of Arlington, they have us come out a couple weeks in advance. Some events, they will do it that morning or the night before. Who to call in case of emergency. Sometimes it's 911. Oftentimes at events though, they want you to call a specific number because they have someone on site that can get to you quicker. So it's really good when you go to an event or a catering, to know who it is you need to contact if there is some type of leak or fire or explosion. And the next slide, I want to show you what happens when you do not keep your electrical equipment properly, serviced. Oh, so this is my parents' RV in 2012, and we had brought it home from the State Fair of Texas. This was 7 days after we brought it home. There was an electrical fire up front, and because of the propane, there's propane in the shed, there was gas on the RV. Man, it's a pretty massive fire. That's pretty scary. Luckily, nobody was in it, nobody was hurt. We did have surveillance cameras that saw a little fox go by about 15 minutes before, so I think it might have been a little fox, but I'm not really sure. The fire department did say it was electrical. But had someone been in this, I mean, it would have been tragic, so. So events. So again, one reason that Fletcher's got food trailers was to go to events. And so I really want to talk about the types of events. Anything from festivals, fairs, concerts, corporate events, farmers markets, city events, stadiums, conference centers. There are so many opportunities with a food truck. You know, you are literally a mobile kitchen on wheels with the freedom to go anywhere. And there's people out there that are hungry and they don't want to leave their house, their job. They don't want to leave, you know, conference. So they're bringing in food trucks. For example, a lot of the local large churches will have conferences and they'll have 4, you know, to 10 food trucks come out to feed everyone during the lunch. There's so much you can do with food trucks. It really is a fun job. They even have food truck festivals and competitions where you can go out and, you know, take your skills. And if you've got some kind of crazy burger idea, you know, you can compete in food trucks. It can really be a lot of fun. Even catering for corporate events, whether it's, you know, a small company like a realtor firm for 50 people, or for example, you could go cater for Mary Kay. You could be catering for 5,000 people and possibly, you know, gross $60,000 in one catering event. So knowing your minimums is really good. We had a lot of people that would like Fletcher's to come out and do some catering, but just based on how much you pay your staff, product, gas, we have to have a minimum to ensure that the company is profiting. So knowing what those numbers are for you, you can go online, you can Google ROIs, put in everything you do so you can find out how much you need to be charging to make sure that you are bringing home a profit. After all, you know, we're a business to support and make money. So for Fletcher's and for most of what I've seen, the event season is about spring break to July 4th. That is when I see the most events happening. That is when we are the busiest with almost every weekend. A lot of them have first come, first serve. Some have exclusivity, which means first come, you've got to get your applications in as soon as they're live. So if there's an event you want, I'm almost like when you're in college and you're trying to sign up for a class or check a grade, I'm refreshing it because I want to be the first person to apply to a certain event. Some have exclusivity. For example, the Frisco Freedom Festival in Frisco, Fletcher's will be doing our 3rd year. They ask us if we want to come. We say yes. If we said no, they might ask another vendor. And then, you know, we tell them, you know, hey, there's nothing wrong with asking. Can we be the exclusive corn dog vendor or corny dog vendor? We have an event coming up where they already have a funnel cake vendor. And so they have asked us not to serve funnel cakes, and we're fine with that. Corny dogs is our main thing. And so we're fine with that. So knowing which events you want to go to, knowing a lot of them are first come, some are exclusive, some are annual, and they will ask you to come back. That's really great if you've built a relationship with a city or an event that they're asking you to come back and kind of giving you that first choice. Don't be afraid to ask about the attendance of events. For example, we got invited to do a church. They had maybe 2,000 people, maybe 1,000 people. And I think they had about 8 or 10 food trucks. That's just too many trucks for that little people. Now they just wanted people to be able to go out and get food and not have to wait in line and get back in. But for us, there was just no certainty that we would meet our minimum. So that event we did turn down, or events like that, we did turn down. Applications and contracts, you've got to get your applications and contracts in. Vendor fees. So to participate in events, you're going to see anywhere from $0 to the higher end of being $2,000, with the average of being $160 to $500. For example, and if an event is going to have 20,000 people, I could see them wanting to charge you $500 to $750. Some take a percentage of sales, which is about 20 to 30%. If someone wants to have over 30% of sales, I would just kind of reevaluate if that's an event you want to do. That is a lot of money they're wanting to take. And I understand why. They're also going to be probably bringing you 100,000 people, but how many other food items are they going to have? Some events we just, go and do it because we want to do it. We want to risk it and see if it's there. Some events we just aren't willing to risk it if they're going to be taking that much money. Most events are going to want a permission letter, or I'm sorry, you're going to ask most event organizers for a permission letter to get your permit from the city. They don't just want food trucks going where they're not invited. So you now have to get permission letters unless you have an annual event or an annual permit, which I recommend because that kind of cuts some of that tape. Average health permit's about $100. Denton County is $35, and I have that health permit that I can show you guys. Every event that Fletcher's goes to, we ask. So we have a generator, but we ask them, do you have electricity? We would rather pay $25 or $50 for them to provide us electricity so that we don't have to worry about the noise of a generator, keeping fuel in a generator running out of fuel in the middle of the event, shutting down all the power, and then having to tell people, we're so sorry, we'll be back up in an hour operating because customers will not be happy and you'll miss out on all those sales. Some events, and we see this a lot, will ask you for sponsorship. Basically, they want to know if you want to pay them thousands and thousands of dollars and they'll put your logo on something. That's up to you. If you're trying to really build a brand and you want to pay that money to have a sponsorship, but we typically turn this down because we just want to be at the event. We want the foot traffic. And if you're already going to be there, so we typically don't accept a lot of sponsorships, but we do get asked, you may get asked as well, weigh the benefits. Is it worth having your brand mentioned on signs, on the radio, at the event? Or do you just want to go there and make your sales? Sorry, I have allergies today. It's always important to ask about alcohol and soda. Some events do not want you to sell soda. They might let you sell water or lemonade. A lot of them like to have alcohol and soda stations, so that's one way for the events to make money. So they might ask you, so just know if you sell soda, make sure you ask, hey, can I bring soda? Are you providing soda? Are y'all gonna do soda? Get some water. Applying for events, you've got deadlines, early and late registration. Most events I see, they want you to register about 2 to 5 months in advance. Sometimes, and this rarely happens, we may get an email from someone, or we may email an event and ask if there's any open spots, a couple of days before, and sometimes we get in, but usually you've got to be planning about 2 to 5 months out. When applying, they're going to want to know your menu items and prices. They're going to want photos of the track, trailer, setup of the inside and outside. This doesn't happen that often, but sometimes people want your ingredient list. They want to know, they want to know what ingredients you're going to use. My allergies are so bad.
Yeah. So just really quick while Amber takes a second, allergies, gosh, they're ridiculous around here. So just an FYI really quick, this is being recorded and the replay link will be sent out to you if you registered for the event. In addition to that, Amber also lets us always have the slide deck. So we'll put the slide deck on a Google Drive for you and be able to share that with you as well. So you don't have to worry about taking pictures of the slides and whatnot. And then I'll share with you, so our next event is our May Women Rise, and it's May 10th. And we actually have Priscilla Rahman. She's a marketing instructor here at Texas Women's University. And she's gonna come in and talk about pricing and how to get your product in front of your customer. We've had a lot of people ask about that. Registration is open for that. So are you
One more.
And then starting in June, our June Lemon Rise will be in person. So we'll do in person and virtual. We'll have both components, just like we're doing here this evening. And that registration will be open soon. Okay, back. Okay, awesome.
I am so sorry. So I am allergic to oak trees. And my allergist told me to move, but I love the FW. So I really apologize. So applying to events, things to have on hand, ingredient list, photos, your COI, W-9. Knowing your load in and load out time is really important. If you miss load in, they can't have you in when people are already on the street or at the event. Ask about ice. Some events, most events that we see, they will provide ice for you. Like we need ice to make our batter. Some people need ice for, keeping drinks cold, keeping other items cold. Some events will not consider you official unless you have paid fees and had your permits accepted. So make sure that you don't miss these things because events will not allow you to participate if you don't get all of that in. This is just a sample application. This is from the Parker County Peach Festival, so you can kind of see what they're looking for. They're wanting for your business name. They're wanting, your tax, your sales tax ID, certificate of insurance, photos of your booth, food unit photo. So again, this comes back to having great pictures of your menu items. Knowing if you're a 501c3. Trying to not cough again. Here's a permit from the health application for Denton County. Again, they want to know what kind of items you're using. And this is all available online at the City of Denton website. Because I'm trying to not cough, I'm gonna kind of get something more important. Social media and marketing. So this is more my specialty in the family business. I run our the marketing department for Fletcher's, and so I really want to talk about the importance of marketing as well. Social media marketing. So social platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You're most likely going to want to use Facebook or Instagram. If you're young and creative and you want to do TikTok, go for it, but I wouldn't put my energy there. Using your username or your company name, using iPhone photos in portrait mode can take some really beautiful photos. I always recommend, again, having some professional photos to use. Also, one thing you can do is take customer photos that they have shared on social media and ask or tag them and reshare it to show other people enjoying your product. Make sure you're always tagging the events, the city, local foodies, people that like to eat, get other people talking about your food and where you're going to be. It's great when other people are talking about you. One thing that Fletcher's always ask events is, what are you doing to market the event? Is it just social media? Do you have newsletters? Are you going to do any kind of media outreach or go into any type of local papers? If so, here's our name, our social channel, here's some photos. Here's our official hashtag to make sure that you're using. Just having a different range of things to post about to kind of change it up so it's not always, a picture of a corny dog, picture of a corny dog, picture of a corny dog. So we talk about events, we talk about our menu, we talk about our customers and what they're saying and what they're eating. We'll do, employees and working. So you can kind of see we've got a picture of some items. We've got some ladies enjoying corny dogs. We've got our upcoming events on one post. We've got some great pictures of funnel cakes, again, professional photos to just kind of really show, how good a funnel cake can look. Hashtags are important. I wouldn't get too worried about them and get too just into, they are great for marketing. So hashtags can help categorize posts increase engagement, attract followers to a certain niche, strengthen a brand image, and help reach a target audience. So hashtags are great, and we use hashtags that are relevant to what we're doing. But I wouldn't be so focused on them that you, what's the word? I just wouldn't worry too much about them. Find a few that you like, change them out. Don't always use the same ones. But I see people that will go put 30 hashtags on a post and it's just gonna spam it up. Meaning you're gonna get a lot of weird fake comments, so. And really that's it, as far as just kind of the basics of going from truck versus trailer, startup cost, kind of what it's gonna look like to operate on the inside, some payroll and legal issues or legal, responsibilities of being a business owner, pay scale, marketing, photos. And I'd be happy to ask or answer any questions that you guys have.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll stop sharing. And then it looks like we probably have a lot of questions in here. Do we have questions, Barbara?
Yeah, we have a couple of them. Mindy had a question about where can we find out about catering opportunities?
Like where to go and cater.
Are there any resources for catering opportunities?
So there are some websites, and I know that there's one in particular where they will go and find catering jobs for you, and they take, I believe, 15% of sales. So it's gonna be anything from word of mouth to marketing to finding a company that will go and promote your company for you, but then they will take a small percentage of sales. A lot of times it is doing an event and getting that word of mouth, having a great experience, everything from the quality of the food to the customer service to the whole experience. That's gonna lead them to whether it's the customer or the event organizer that's gonna give other opportunities or invite you. But there are places that you can go and have them, send out emails and start promoting your company, but you have to pay for that.
So let's take a question in the room. Does anybody have a question here, back here?
I actually have a few.
Okay.
How many hours of prep and work does it usually average to?
So let's say that we have, the question was how many hours of prep? So let's say that we have an event and it is from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. We will probably start getting ready. Really, we do some work the day before, such as getting all the product together, which could take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. Shopping, prepping, washing. You could do that the day of, but sometimes we usually do it the day before. And then about 2 to 4 hours before the event, we are loading everything into the truck, going through our checklist, making sure that we have everything. But usually one event is 4 to 8 hours, and it could take about, I would say, 3 to 6 hours, 3 hours before, maybe 3 hours after of prepping and then bringing the trailer back or the truck back and then taking everything out of the truck, cleaning it. So you're gonna have 3 to 4 hours before, 3 to 4 hours after. But again, it just depends on your operation. We use a lot of product, cooking, and so then it's just once you sell out, then you don't really have much cleanup after. So it really depends on your specific operation.
Did you say you had another question?
I actually have a few.
Okay.
How does it work with the health department and the commissary?
With the health department and what?
Commissary.
Commissary? What do you mean exactly with the health department? Like Fletcher's has a food trailer, but we have a commissary kitchen, and that's where we do all of our prep.
Oh.
And we have the city of Dallas regulates, and they do annual inspections, and we have a permit for that building. And so all of our prep happens there. And then we take the trailers there and we load everything from that building that's been approved onto the trailer. And then the health inspector still want to inspect the trailer and the product as well, especially when it comes to food safety and public health. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to ensure your customers stay healthy.
Right, okay. And I have one more. Does it feel like it's a reasonable living?
Does it feel like it's a reasonable living? Well, my personal experience is yes, but it's also, we've been in business for 80 years. I have some friends with food trucks. For some of them, it's full-time, for some it's part-time. It depends on what reasonable to you, just like, you know, what is success to you? What do those numbers look like? I would say getting to be your own boss and an entrepreneur is very stressful, but you get to be creative. You get to decide who you're going to be, what you're going to sell, where you're going to go, what you want to do. You get full creativity over this project. So I would say that it is very fulfilling, at least for me personally, it is.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question, just going back to the commissary, because that was actually one of my questions, was where do you make them, where do you store them? And then I guess, what is the cost to have a commissary kitchen?
Again, that all just depends what city you're in. So for us personally, we have a commissary kitchen that is at Fair Park. It's a building that we own, so we pay our utilities, we pay some monthly fees. There are so many places, especially nowadays, kitchens, ghost kitchens, even restaurants renting out spaces that really need to be filled. Again, there's brokers that can go find those for you. You can go do your own research. I really don't know pricing on that because we haven't personally had to do that. But there's a lot of opportunities post, 2020 that really want your business. I know, for example, Chili's is doing ghost kitchens. And so if you've got a setup or contact with Chili's, you can rent space. I mean, there's a million Chili's in DFW, so.
So then from when you take it from the commissary kitchen, do you then store it like in some sort of fridge or something in the trailer, or?
So we
I'm just
do,
trying to
so we
figure out
have,
the process.
we have cold items, and so we have refrigerators inside of our trailers. So they go, our hot dogs, for example, they go from one refrigerator in the commissary to the refrigerator in the trailer. And then from there, it goes to the event. And then as we're cooking over that 4 to 8 hour period, we're taking what we need out of the refrigerator, because things can't stay out for more than an hour or two without, then you're risking some foodborne illness. And so, yes, we do have refrigeration at the event. So you also have to take in mind how many people are you going to serve? How many items do you take? We've gone to some events, again, where, for example, we don't put French fries on the menu because we know we're going to sell more corny dogs and we need extra space for product for corny dogs. So we don't take our curly fries.
Thank you.
Question, Barbara, do we have some more questions online?
Yeah, Costin has a comment and a question. I found some of our events are tent setup only. Now that we have concession trailers, it's a lot more work to do tent only, even though they are great events. Do you still do tent only setups or trailer only?
So Fletcher's does tent and we do trailers. We prefer trailer because you don't have all the unloading and loading, especially with the setup I showed earlier with the buckets. So at Tanger Outlets in Fort Worth, we do a 10 by 10 tent pop-up, and you've got to have a table behind you with all different things of water and test strips and sanitary, hand sanitizer, paper towels. It's so much more work. The great thing about tent zones, you can go pop up anywhere. So we pop up literally in the middle of Tanger Outlets on the concrete. So anyone that walks by is smelling and seeing our food. So they're out shopping and now they're hungry and we're literally right there. If we never did a tent again, though, we would probably be fine with that. Just because it's so much harder. It's so much harder. And the trailers, it's a kitchen on wheels.
Do we have another question? Let's do one more online.
Yeah, Cam has a question. What is your experience with food truck parks?
Food truck park. So Fletcher's being a trailer, there's a lot more restrictions on trailers than trucks. Fletcher's does not typically go to food truck parks because we can't with a trailer. They want more trucks and with the trailer and the detaching. From my understanding, still have to go have a permit with the city. There's got to be a conversation with that park. For example, if you have a food truck or food trailer, you can't just go to a random park and set up and just start selling. From my understanding, that's not legal. And again, my experience with food truck parks is very limited. With the trailers, we don't go to food truck parks. We go to events, festivals, and we do catering. During COVID now, we are popping up at random places everywhere, but we are still reaching out. Like we went to a school, we reached out to the principal or whoever, we got permission from him. We had permission from the city to make sure we had all of our I's dotted and T's crossed.
Yeah, you just didn't pop up at Walmart.
Yeah, like we legally could not just go to Walmart. I mean, that would be a great idea if we could. But you can't, Walmart would be very unhappy, I'm sure. So,
Any questions in here? Lynn?
How many actual trailers are you guys operating?
so we currently have 2 food trailers, and then we also have a large concession trailer. So we have a 14-foot, a 22-foot, and then we have a 30-foot large trailer, and that only comes out, we call it the big boy. It only comes out for like events that are going to be 3 to 4 days long because it takes a whole day to set up. But the trailers, we currently have 2.
How many days a month are you guys booking everything? How many events a month are you
It
doing?
depends on the season. Again, March to July is the busy season, and so we can have anywhere from a minimum of, we have a minimum of 3 events or catering jobs a week, up to we could have 10, and both trucks are out working.
Yeah.
We do catering, you know, real estate, construction, really any business that wants corny dogs and they meet the minimums, we will go there. So.
What, now for social media, when you're doing that, are you using like the Hootsuite platform or something like that to basically do your calendar and book everything a week in advance or a month in advance, or how are you operating? Because I'm sure you guys send out a lot of posts.
So we do have an advertising agency that we work with. And so there's a conversation between he and I, and we will go over, hey, the next week we need to talk about this event. We need to talk about this new item. We need to repost this thing that a customer shared. Some companies do like a monthly calendar and they'll have the post set up, and we've done that too. And then you go in and kind of have the captions in it scheduled. We really want to have a community presence, and with things, trending things or tragic news, for example, when the war in Ukraine started, we didn't post for a couple of days. So we chose not to do a calendar because we really want to have a community feel and vibe that people feel that we're part of and part of that conversation. And we felt that a calendar could almost kind of take you off topic. But calendars are great, especially if you're busy and you want to sit down and devote 6 hours to just post and captions, and then that way you know what to post each week. I mean, that's very beneficial too.
Any more questions online, Barbara?
Yeah, Angie brought up a question about tents. If we don't have a food truck yet, is it okay to use a Blackstone or grill to cook? I've looked into permits, but it seems a bit vague and contradictory. Where would you recommend to start? For reference, we are looking into making tacos.
So I have no experience with tacos other than when I eat them. From what I would understand, you have your 10 by 10 tent, you would have the appropriate grill. And I don't know what kind of grill that would be, but I would just have, I mean, can you reach out to the city? Can you find a health inspector to talk to look at what you have? Because you're gonna have a health inspector come out and make sure that it's something up to date, sanitary, and usable. Let's see. I don't know what a Blackstone, I guess a Blackstone is just a
Yeah, I
large.
think it's that grill top kind of thing.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think that's good advice. So definitely just reach out to the health department and get guidance.
Yeah, and maybe even the event specifically, because they may not allow certain things. You could try frying tacos. I can tell you all about oil and fires. But I would just recommend reaching out to, for example, City of Denton, try and get one of the event specialists or someone that does the health inspections and just ask them, hey, I'm looking at buying this. Am I gonna get turned down for events if I have it?
All right, any more questions online?
To help out with your startup costs, have you ever had to seek out financing, and what kind of options are available for food trucks or vendors to finance some of those startup costs? Do you have any experience in that area?
So I would suggest just looking at your current financial situation and whether it's putting away $500 a month somewhere, if it's selling something, if you have a really good relationship with a smaller local bank that you can go in and talk to them face to face, it never hurts to ask. I would go to one, if you're banking like at a local bank, and you can go sit down and show them a legit business plan that shows you've really put work and thought into it. But I would also just recommend having a goal. In 12 months, I want to have $25,000, and just really make a point to be putting that money aside every month to get that, knowing that it could take a few months or a year to start making some of that money back.
Thank you. That's it in the way of questions right now.
So with that question, as far as like funding, you can also check with, you can set up an appointment with our business advisor, and she can help you with finding money for that. In addition to that, always keep an eye on what we're doing, because like right now we have our Veteran Woman Entrepreneur Grant open where we're awarding 10 women $5,000. It is for veteran women. Applications are open now. You can go to our website and check it out. And I'm not sure, Barbara, if you can grab our link real quick and put it in the chat for those people. If you're not a veteran, if you know a veteran woman entrepreneur, please pass that information on to her. In addition to that, we always have our Start Her grant, which is in the fall. We usually release it, you know, like middle to late September, where we also award $5,000. Lynn, which she's a police, is actually a recipient of our Start Her grant. And, you know, $5,000 is $5,000.
It was huge for me.
Yeah, you don't have to pull out of your own pocket. And then there's other opportunities for grants. If you just search grants for women online, there'll be some things that come up for that. Always check in with us and see, we can always get you pointed in the right direction with our business advisors and some of the things that we have going on. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to go ahead and log off the virtual version of this. We'll get off the live feed of Facebook. We're going to head out to the food truck. I hate that you can't have smell-o-vision or taste-o-vision. And we're going to log back in on Facebook on there. And we're also going to try to record it so that you guys on the virtual end can have that. And again, you get the replay. I'm sure Amber will let us send out the slide deck. She's always really good about that. And just as our virtual audience says goodbye, we just want to say thank you, Amber, so much for always coming and always being willing to share what you're doing and what Fletcher's is doing. And you're always just an amazing friend for the center. So thank you. Thank you. So we will see you guys later.
We get the fun part.
Yeah. We'll give you lots of pictures.